Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Rocha, and I am the Executive Director with Nipe Fagio here in Tanzania. Thank you so much for being here. We have today a webinar in which we are hoping to discuss the EPR regulations, both what are EPR regulations. EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility, and how they have been implemented both in Tanzania, in Kenya, what the plans are, if they are implemented or not, and having perspective from government, from people in the environmental fields, and also from the industry, and recyclers about how all of these impact the amount of plastic pollution that we have. So we have 40 speakers today that are going to be discussing all of these, and thank you everyone for being here. EPR regulations can be a very important piece of fighting plastic pollution. So I'm very happy to have the opportunity to discuss this with everyone here. So we have 40 speakers, and they are going to be giving their presentation and their remarks, and then we'll leave the questions for the end of the webinar, but you are free to post your questions in the chat box at any time, so that we can keep the questions to the end. And so with that, I would like to start by announcing our first speaker, Dr. Hussein Omari. He has a Doctor of Philosophy, PhD in Environmental Science. He's currently working as a Senior Urban Planner and Environmental Officer at the Vice President of the Division of Environment in the United Republic of Tanzania. Dr. Hussein has also published over 70 papers on areas of waste management and human settlement development, and is highly involved as a public speaker in various national and international conferences, workshops, and symposiums on issues related to solid waste management, climate change, and human settlement development. So Dr. Hussein has been presenting, not the first time that he participates in our webinars, and it's a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Hussein.
Thank you.
Please let me know if you'd like to share your screen or if you want me to share your presentation.
You can just share my presentation.
Okay, so 1 second. Also, this webinar is being recorded because we're planning to then share this in our YouTube account. So just be mindful that we are recording it. And here comes the presentation. Please go ahead, Dr. Hussein. Sorry, that is just...
Thank you, Anna, for inviting me to be a part of this webinar. First of all, I'll just appreciate the opportunity to share the sort of experience that, of course, we are having with regards to the implementation of EPR in Tanzania. So with regard to that, as the title itself says, we just like to see how or whether the EPR scheme is really fully implemented in the country. Next, please. My presentation will be guided on the following sort of highlights. We'll have introductions because we are talking of EPR, then it's better to also have an understanding of the status of waste management in the country. But also, I would just love to go on analyzing what are the causes related to ineffective waste management in the country. But the causes that I'll discuss are only those related to EPR or have an influence on EPR. But also, we'll talk on the impact of inadequate waste management, which of course will just lead us to know why should we now have an EPR. But also we'll discuss on the analysis on the implementation of EPR in the country. And then I'll conclude and give what are the government response as a way forward. Next, please. So to begin with, what I'll just to say is we cannot talk of waste management without talking of urbanizations, because waste management has been far an urban issue rather than a rural issue. So if you look at the country, there is a high level of urbanizations compared to the time, of course, where the country attained independence. For example, in 1967, it's only 5% of the urban population in the country. We have urban population in the country was only 5%. But currently, we are talking of more than 35% of the urban population in the country is urbanized. But as we know that, of course, as I said earlier, urbanization normally has been having some opportunity, but well as challenges. But one of the challenges that has been associated with urbanization is increasing waste management. Next, please. So I would just like to have an highlight on the status of waste management in the country. Just a very recent study that has been conducted by the Vice President Office has shown that the country is generating an estimate of 7 million tons of solid waste annually. And this is estimated to reach to double by 2030. But if you look the rate of waste generation in the country, annually we're experiencing a 5% annual growth on waste generations. But if you look into our major cities, we've seen that, of course, all of them show the pattern that, of course, which estimate to have an increasing waste generations in the year to come. For example, if you talk of Dar es Salaam itself, in 2006, there are only 3,900 tons. But currently, nationally, we can just divide the. If you talk of Dar es Salaam itself, as I said earlier, we are talking of having nearly 400,000 tons in 2006. But currently, it's over 5,000 tons daily generations. This is also goes to a number of other cities in the country. Next, please. If you look, as I said earlier, waste management is more of urban issues. So in the country, you can divide the country into two major blocks. We have rural parts and we have an urban part. The urban part comprises of municipalities, cities, and town councils. Together in the country, cities, municipalities, and town councils, there are only 47, which is while we have rural district councils, 137. So the urban part of the country is only 25% of the total urban authorities in the country. But you can see the amount of waste generated by only 25% of the urban areas is more than 50%. And you can see the rural areas, which comprises of 137 local government authorities, it only comprises 43% of the waste generation. So it shows that, of course, we need to have an emphasis on urban areas, because it seems to be waste management has more pressing issues in urban areas. Next, please. But if when you want to discuss the issues of EPR, we should also really go into the composition of the generated waste in the country. So you can see that, of course, much of the waste generated in the country is more of organic, but we have papers, plastics, glasses, all, of course, the trajectory of increasing. But all literatures keep on saying that the country keep on more growing in terms of economically, but also the rate of organic waste is decreasing, while other components of waste, such as plastics and others, they keep on increasing. So you can see that, of course, in Dar es Salaam, in 2006, the plastic compositions in the waste stream was 13%. But a study conducted in 2012 showed that, of course, it just goes to 16%. So the country keep on growing economically, we should also expect increasing of other type of waste, including plastics. Next, please. Despite having this sort of increasing trajectory of waste generations, but also the collection has never been that much effective. For example, nationally, it's only less than 35% of the generated waste is collected. However, there are some improvement in cities, municipalities, and town councils, which consider the urban part, compared to the rural part. But still, we have in municipalities, less than 60% of generated waste is collected, where in town councils, we are talking of less than 30%, while in cities, at least, they've just gone to less than 65%. Next, please. But after collections, we also need to analyze where does the collected waste taken to. So if you can see that, of course, in the country, countrywide, it's only 5.3% mode of disposal we are using sanitary landfill. But more than 90% of the waste generated in the country is either dumped through controlled dumping, illegal dumping, or uncontrolled dumping, all of which are not really environmentally sound. Next, please. So I'm just trying to show, if you look into the picture of the far left, you can see that this is illegal dumping practice that is currently happening in the country. And this is Msimbazi River, where you have informal collectors throwing waste into Msimbazi River. But the picture at the middle, this is Pugu Kinyamwezi. So you can see that, of course, this is what we call a controlled dumping. So controlled dumping, illegal dumping, and uncontrolled dumping, they constitute more than 90% of the waste disposal practice in the country. At the far right hand, this is a sanitary landfill, so which is constitute only 5.3% all over the country. Next, please. So all of these inadequate or waste management practices have been contributing to a number of negative impacts. So one of the impact has been the floods that has been happening in the country, which somehow we tend to attribute it to the climate change, while of course is a result of ineffective waste management. As you can see, the picture at the far left, this is Jangwani, where you can see that, of course, waste just blocked the bridges and then resulted into floods, as you can see at the far right in Jangwani area. Next, please. This is also another impact of inadequate waste management in our society. As you can see, of course, the condition of our beaches, how much has been deteriorated, which of course contribute to affect the level of tourism, both national and international tourism, but also contributed, as you can see, to the picture on the right hand, to the death of marine organisms. Next, please. But also another impact of what we are experiencing from inadequate waste management is the practice of waste burning, which of course, in most cases, resulted into emissions of unintended organic pollutants, which these are the chemicals that of course are known to be very much cancer-causing agents, especially furans and dioxins, which of course resulted into inadequate waste management. So the picture on the left, this is Kigamboni area, where of course, it's difficult for them to transport waste to the dump sites, poor dump site, because of the cost of transporting waste through the bridges. So consequently, people are throwing waste around the neighborhoods, as well as open burning practices. Next, please. So as I said earlier, I'll just discuss only two of the causes of inadequate waste management in the country, which somehow we can relate them to EPR. So one of them is inadequate budget allocations. Here I'm just trying to assess the amount of the required amount for waste management in particular local government authorities, and how much has been really allocated. So if you look into the percentages, you can see that, of course, on our 6 cities in the country, it's only Dodoma that has having 39% of the required budget for waste management is allocated. But you can see cities like Tanga, it's only 5.5% of the required budget for waste management is really allocated. But you can see Dar es Salaam is only 25% compared to the magnitude of the problems in those particular areas. But when you go to the municipalities, because I'm just looking at the cities and municipalities, because as I said earlier, these are the areas where we have more challenges when it comes to waste management, because these are the more urban areas. So you can see almost in all municipalities in the country, with the exception of Tukahama, they all allocate less than 10% of the required budget for the waste management. Next, please. So another underlying causes of inadequate waste management in the country is lack of waste reuse, reduce, and recycling practices. We've been having a practice where all the collected waste, they're just taken into dump site without having any sort of sorting or segregation. So consequently, as you can see in the picture at the top in the right hand, people now are going to sort the waste at the dump site. So these sort of things are really increasing the pressure and the negative impact of waste management into the environment. Next, please. So now comes, after analyzing all of these sort of problems, now comes why do we really think that an APR can be a solution to these problems? Next, please. So what we need APR, first of all, because this is an approach that where producers' responsibility for a product after the production of is really binded to the producer himself. So we ensure that, of course, everyone who produces something, he must really take responsibility for the end life of the product. But the second, which is also very important, why we need an EPR, because it ensures a robust organization as well as reliable financing. As I said earlier, if you look into previous slides where we've analyzing the cause of inadequate waste management. So financing is one of the issues, but also organization is also one of the issues. So having an APR, we believe that it could be a very contributory sort of element in ensuring, of course, we have quite effective waste management. Next, please. But also because we know that, of course, with EPR, we can incentivize producers to design more resource-efficient products with lower environmental impact. But also through EPR, we can ensure effective end-of-life collection and the environmentally sound management of collected waste products. And lastly, we believe that with the EPR, we can create higher rates of reuse and recycling, and therefore to reduce the amount of waste to the environment. Next, please. So now coming to our center of this particular webinar, analysis of implementation of EPR in Tanzania, to analyze whether it's fully implemented or not fully implemented. So first of all, I would just like to go into the existing legal framework and the governing institutions, and what are they saying, so as to analyze whether we are fully implementing EPR in the country or we are not fully implementing EPR in the country. So to begin with, we have a number of legislations which are in one or the other in the country are related to the management, to the implementation of EPR. So one of them is we having EU-Waste regulation of 2021. This regulation is governed by National Environmental Management Council, NEMC. So if you go into this regulation, for example, Section 7 requires manufacturers and importers to institute take-back schemes. So it's just ourselves to ask ourselves, are these particular regulations require having these take-back schemes? The question in place, do we have those take-back schemes as we speak now? But also the Section 52 of the same regulations also requires those manufacturers and dealers to ensure that the generated e-waste products is collected in line with the EPR principles and channeled to licensed dismantler or recyclers, and ensure collection centers or take-back systems are set up. So also it's ourselves now to judge and ask, do we have those sort of take-back system as we speak now? But also it provides penalties for the failure of a producers to establish those take-back centers. But another regulation also, which in a way involved with implementation of EPR in the country, is electronic and postal communications, which means Electronic Communication Equipment Standard and the US Management Regulation of 2020. This particular regulation is governed by TCRA. But if you go into these regulations, you can see that, of course, it requires producers to provide information to a recycler on how to dismantle their equipment at the end of the end of life of the product, but also to indicate in a particular, especially communication equipment, electrical communication equipment, where there is hazardous substance in that particular equipment. But also, it just requires producers to create awareness on sound management of e-waste, through publications, posters, but also very importantly, having take-back campaigns. So someone can ask himself, these particular regulations really well implemented on the grounds? Do we have the so-called take-back systems in place? Next, please. Another regulations which also have a link with EPR or contribute in the implementation of EPR is the Plant Health Act of 2020. This one is governed by Tanzania Plant Health and Pesticide Authority. So if you go into section 13, one of this particular act, it requires establishment of pesticide empty containers collection schemes. But also it goes further on section 36, where it requires any person who either intend to manufacture, formulate, pack, repack, import, export, sell of any pesticide sort of services to indicate in his or her license application of compliance to the empty container collection schemes. So someone can ask themselves, do we have these schemes for empty containers for pesticides anywhere in the country? Do we, these particular producers, particular packers and so on and so forth, importers, do they really comply to this sort of particular regulation or particular acts? Another sort of regulations also, as I talked earlier, is electronic communication regulations, which is governed by TCRA, also requires electronic communication equipment to provide contact details to the consumers to facilitate a return of used electronic communication equipment. All of these, it's for ourselves to ask whether they are fully implemented in the country. Next, please. Last, it's also environmental management, source management regulations of 2019 or 2009. This one is governed by National Environmental Management Council. But if you go into this particular regulation, section 41R, it requires importers and manufacturers of plastic to ensure their products are designed to be environmentally friendly, recyclable, reusable, and biodegradable. So someone can ask himself, do they really comply to this sort of regulations? Also, this is the question to ask ourselves. Next, please. So after analyzing the requirement of these regulations, their requirements or their instructions to the producers, so someone can really come up with analysis of whether it's really there is a fully implementation of the EPR in the country, or there is no fully implementation of the EPR in the country. So if you make a small analysis, you can analyze that. Of course, we have a legal framework for EPR implementation in the country. But the shortcomings that we can see, there is a lack of clear waste category for implementation of EPR implementations. For example, you can see in Tanzania Plant Health Authority, they're just dealing with pesticide containers. But if you go into TCRA, they're dealing with communication related equipment. And if you go into National Environmental Management Councils, they're just dealing with e-waste. So there is no lack of clear defines what are really priority waste category as a country we are really going forward. For examples, we're having problems of plastics resulting from packaging. Where do we really having these sort of intended particular legislations with regards to this to the packaging? But another thing is multiplicity of institutions responsible for enforcement of EPR. We've seen TCRA, they're responsible for enforcement of EPR. National Environmental Management Council, they are responsible for implementation of EPR, TPHPA as well. So if you look into all of these, you can really see lack of clear mandate on a specific institutions. It also somehow provide a room for laxity for the implementation of EPR. But also, if you look into these regulations, producers are inadequately defined, which give rooms for other sort of producers like online market sellers and so on and so forth to be part of the implementation of EPR. Next, please. So despite having those challenges, but the government is looking forward to find a way really to get out of that particular sort of bottlenecks. So one of the things that the government now is trying to do is establishment of EPR guidelines, which harmonize this fragmented mandate provided by the existing legal framework. So currently, Vice President's office in the final stage of finalizing the EPR guidelines, which harmonizes all of these regulations, so to have a robust sort of regulation which deal with a number of waste categories. But the next thing is development of comprehensive EPR regulations. The Vice President's office, we are trying to see after signing of the developed guidelines and testing, of course, how what is working and what is not working. Then finally, we're going to develop a comprehensive regulations, of course, which will be now harmonize all of these regulations. Next, please. So in a nutshell, that is how we can analyze whether EPR is fully implemented or not fully implemented in the country. Asanteni.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hussein. I think this was a very insightful presentation that gave a very good overview about the situation in Tanzania and some of the challenges of that situation as well. We are going to keep the questions to the end, unless someone has a very burning question right now, so please let me know. But otherwise, we're going to just leave the questions to the end of the presentation. You can also type your questions in the chat box so that we can keep the questions, right? So that said, I would like to then call our second speaker today, Gerphas Opondo. Gerphas Opondo is an environmental lawyer, founder and executive director of the Environmental Compliance Institute, EAC, a Nairobi-based NGO that promotes sustainable societies in Africa through better environmental governance. He leads EAC's strategic programs that support the strengthening of regulatory and institutional frameworks for better environmental governance in East Africa. He has extensive expertise and experience in building appropriate policy interventions for integrated solid waste management, including extended producer responsibility systems. He is an alumnus of the University of Nairobi, where he earned a Bachelor in Law and Master of Science in Environmental Governance. So with that, I would like to invite Gerphas to join. Would you like me to share your presentation, or would you like to share your screen?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon and greetings from Nairobi.
Thank you for being here.
I will try and share my presentation from this end. I hope you can see my presentation now.
Yes, we can. It's not on full screen yet, but we can.
Is that better now?
You can just click on full screen and then, yeah, that's perfect.
That's better now?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to share with you briefly what the EPR situation is with respect to plastic waste management from the Kenya side. So first of all, I would like to share a brief overall overview of the waste management situation in Kenya. And just like my brother from Tanzania has shared, we also here in Kenya struggle with the challenge of inefficient waste management systems, and this cuts across many of the Eastern African countries. And from our end, we do not have, for example, what would qualify for sanitary landfills. And a lot of times, especially in the cities and urban centers, waste is disposed of in open dump sites, with a bit of smaller fractions being handled through composting, incineration, and recycling. But generally speaking, our recycling capacity is very low. In terms of waste generation for the country, per capita daily generation of waste is at about 0.39 kilograms per day, which translates to about 142.35 kilograms per annum per person in the country, based on our current population. In terms of waste generation rate, again, current estimates put that at about 6.8 million tons per annum. And that's basically, from households. And when you go now to the commercial establishments such as hotels, restaurants, and others, again, you have about 1.7 million tons being added into the waste generation of the country. In terms of collection, it's much better in the urban settings at about 54.6%. But for the rural areas, just about 1.5 is collected through formal systems. In terms of waste composition, so this table here just summarizes the waste composition from Kenya's top 3 cities. That is the capital city, Nairobi, the coastal city of Mombasa, as well as Kisumu, which is the city by the lake of the western side. And because this is more about plastic, so in terms of composition, across these 3 cities, then you realize that on average, about 10% of waste from these urban centers is plastics. And then the other categories, of course, are given in this particular table. From our engagements across the East Africa Community region, this is more or less what you find in many other urban settings in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Rwanda, etc. You have rates ranging from about 9% to about 15% or 12% thereabouts of waste being plastic. And this includes not just plastic bottles, PET, but also other forms of plastic. In terms of the waste, the plastic waste management challenge for our country, we are kind of faced with 2 ends pulling in different directions. So on one end, we have a fledgling industrial sector where the plastics sector plays a key role, providing employment to many foreign exchange earnings through exports of different plastic items to especially the Eastern and Central Africa region, and also supporting other sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, trade through packaging products. But on the other hand, our economy, just like the rest of East Africa, is very heavily dependent on our natural resource base. And this natural resource base currently is threatened by pollution from different sources, plastics and plastic pollution being one of those. So whereas on one end, plastic is contributing to the national economy, on the other end, it's actually impacted negatively by threatening the natural resource base, which contributes also in a major way to the economy of the country. For us, in terms of the plastic types that are more problematic, traditionally, we have had problems with the plastic carrier bags, plastic bottles, and other plastic packaging materials. So in this particular slide, I want to share with you some of the policy and legislative approaches that Kenya has applied over the years to try and tame the plastic waste management problem. So at the top is the waste generator or waste producer obligations, and this you find them in our national waste management regulations of 2006. So generally, every generator or producer of waste has an obligation to try and minimize, waste. So by applying, different approaches, for example, if you're an industry, then the regulations encourage application of cleaner production systems, all in all to try and reduce the waste generated. But then once waste is generated, then again, these same regulations have certain requirements as regards, handling and disposal. So, for example, these regulations go into detail of, how waste is supposed to be disposed and, at what places you could dispose. And in terms of waste disposal sites, again, this require to undergo environmental impact assessments as well as annual environmental audits. And this include even, sites or facilities that handle or recycle plastic waste. Now, coming specifically to plastics, as way back as 2007, Kenya already had some regulations requiring, reduction of plastics that leak into the environment. So, in standards that were issued way back in 2007, production of plastics of less than 30 microns, especially the carrier bags, were prohibited. And this was also coupled by, punitive taxation, so that besides, requiring that these plastics be of less than 30 microns, of greater than 30 microns, there was also an imposition of 120% excise duty on plastic carrier bags. And all of this are basically, meant to discourage, the use of plastic carrier bags, while at the same time, trying to make them more recyclable. But more recently, in 2017, Kenya did impose a ban on plastic carrier bags and flat bags. And then in 2019, we followed that with a ban on, plastic bottles, straws, and related single-use plastic items, especially in, the national parks, reserves, and designated wildlife conservation areas. There is also a general prohibition on littering of waste, and this, in a way, covers plastic waste. However, we've had lots of challenges when it comes to implementation of some of these approaches that I have highlighted before. So one is what I would call design gaps and challenges. And in this respect, there has been generally a lack of consensus nationally on the kind of legislative design that we should adopt for plastic waste management. So here, for example, what happens is that, some people think if we implemented our existing general waste management regulations appropriately, then that would suffice. While others think that, because plastics has come out as a problematic stream of waste, we need separate legislation that tackles plastics separately. And this debate continues. So hopefully, we will get consensus at some point. But then there has been also, challenges with regard to unclear scope of existing policies. So for example, when it comes to the bans, there are a bit of arguments up to, what kinds of materials are banned, what are not, and, what kind of exemptions exist. So again, there are challenges with that. And then when it comes to implementation, of course, we have competing priorities between environment and the economy, poor coordination among relevant agencies. There is a lot of smuggling of the banned plastic carrier bags through the borders. So from our end, sometimes, we blame neighboring countries like Uganda, Tanzania. I've been in forums where, again, if you speak to the Tanzanians, they say, oh, these things are coming into our borders from Kenya. You go to Uganda, they say the same. While on our side, we say the same. So basically, this calls for, regional approaches to deal with this. Issues around false labeling. So, for example, you'd find the illegally produced plastics, the plastics that are banned, labeled as having been produced at a facility in Kampala, Uganda, when they've actually been produced here in Nairobi. So these are some of the challenges that have been registered. Inadequate capacity for monitoring and enforcement among the law enforcement agencies, as well as low public awareness on the benefits of better plastic waste management. So when the bans took place, so this is basically just a newspaper headline around the time that the ban took effect in 2017, and there was a lot of fanfare and celebration around that. But exactly 1 year later, this is again another headline from the same newspaper, asking what ban had been put in place, because in Western Kenya, where we border with Uganda, for example, lots of the banned plastics were still openly in circulation. So these are just some of the challenges with implementation. Now, coming to EPR for plastic materials and packaging, I will basically on this slide just highlight that EPR embodies the polluter pays principle, whereby he who pollutes then needs to pay for the cost of cleanup. And it also envisages a circular economy in its simplest terms. And in terms of how EPR would work, so this is just an illustration of a basic idea of an EPR system, where you have producers, basically domestic manufacturers and importers, putting products on the market that eventually become waste. And these are basically go to consumers who purchase through distributors and later dispose of them. So what this would mean is that there needs to be somebody to manage the waste. And usually in an EPR system, then the waste management operators are contracted by the producers to take back this from the waste management system and then sort and recycle. So whereas it is possible to put in place individual producer responsibility schemes to facilitate extended producer responsibility, again, from what we have experienced, it is easier to carry out an EPR scheme where the producer responsibility organization is managed collectively by the different producers. And this is more so because of the logistics and the kind of resources that are required to be able to run an EPR scheme. So basically, this is just a slide that illustrates the difference between the collective versus the individual producer responsibility scheme that I just mentioned. In terms of success factors for effective EPR implementation, it's important that this be locally owned and aligned to local waste management policies and plans. Should be an open, transparent multi-stakeholder process, right from planning to implementation. Stronger partnerships, I think, are key so that roles are defined clearly, and finally, it needs to be cost-effective in order to maximize benefits. Some additional considerations that are key based on some assessments that we've done is that an EPR scheme will not be able to work unless waste management services such as collection, separation at source are enhanced. Because again, EPR through the circular economy perspective envisages that it's a closed loop, and therefore recycling is key. So if we are going to be able to recycle, then we need clear collection, clear separation at source, and all that. For Kenya, and I think I would say for East Africa, if you look at how our waste management works, the informal sector especially plays a very great role. More so in urban informal settlements where formal municipal waste management services do not adequately cover. So it is very important when we think about EPR that we also consider integrating the informal sector. And then we also need to remove barriers for small and medium enterprises. And when I talk about barriers, EPR envisages, for example, a collective producer responsibility organization where people, pool resources to act on the waste stream together. And for the small and medium enterprises, sometimes, cost can be prohibitive. So there needs to be a way to remove such barriers as cost to ensure that everybody actually participates in the system. In terms of designing the EPR legislation, I think this again should take into account each country's unique situation. And I would say that as countries think about developing EPR legislation, it may be important to consider including more than one waste stream for coverage within the EPR legislation. So finally, on the Kenya side, this is just a representation of what our draft EPR regulatory framework looks like. So we do not yet have a legally mandated EPR scheme. Rather, we have voluntary schemes that are being run by institutions like Petco, the Kenya Extended Producer Responsibility Organization. So these are more like industry-led voluntary initiatives, but currently Kenya has drafted a comprehensive EPR legislation that would cover different streams of waste, including, for example, packaging for non-hazardous products, as well as packaging for hazardous products. The other stream, I think, is electrical and electronic equipment, end-of-life motor vehicles, automobiles, aircrafts, and locomotives, and finally, non-packaging items such as plastics, glass, paper, etc. So our current draft legal and regulatory framework envisages both individual as well as a collective producer or EPR schemes, and then these are self-organized with a regulatory authority, in our case, the National Environment Management Authority, taking the role of a clearing house and ensuring, that every aspect of the scheme runs according to the regulations. So allow me to stop at this point, and I will be able to take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerphas Opondo. I think this was a very insightful presentation as well that gave a strategic overview about the need of EPR regulations, the challenges of EPR regulations, and also an overview of what is going on in Kenya right now. I think it's particularly important to emphasize the role of the informal sector, and now the Global Plastic Treaty is being recognized as well as the need for separation exposed, for example. for basically segregation of waste to be able to enable the API scheme. So thank you very much for the presentation. Once again, everyone is welcome to ask questions, so you can add your questions to the chat box. I see that you already have one question there. Please add more questions, and we'll also open the floor for questions at the end of the webinar. So with that, I would like to introduce our third presenter, Mr. Nicholaus Ambwene. Nicholaus Ambwene is a Petco Tanzania country coordinator with 6 years of experience working with international organizations in various livelihood projects funded by different donors such as UKAID, GIZ, Canadian Affairs, European Union, and RANSAC. He's a bachelor's degree graduate in economics with highly developed communication skills. He's an expert in the environment, business development, inclusion, and humanitarian programming. Nicholaus has a wealth of experience in communication for development projects and supports Petco Tanzania in delivering sustainable projects. Petco is an industry-managed producer responsibility organization, PRO, practicing voluntary extended producer responsibility in Tanzania. The founding members are Coca-Cola Kwanza, SBC Tanzania, which is Pepsi, Nyanza Bottling Co. Limited, Bonite Bottler, A1 Products and A1 Products and Bottles, Sayona Drink, Cool Blue, Pure Drinking Water, and Stila Africa, and A1 Products, also known as MECL. So thank you very much, Mr. Nicholaus, to be here. Would you like to share your presentation, or would you like me to share it for you?
Yeah, you can share or can share also. It's fine. If you have it with you, there can share. Thank you.
Okay. So let me share your
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Okay, I can see, okay.
Yes, thank you very much for the great opportunity to participate, to be in this webinar. So it's been a very great time for us as Petco, but also as a part of learning from different perspectives on different people around who are here and even those who are outside here. So basically, Petco Tanzania is a new initiative that different producers came up with an idea to see on how they can participate or they can take part on extended producer responsibilities. And as have been mentioned, so we have now we have 8 members, founding members, who are now supporting or expecting to take part on extended producer responsibilities through Petco. So can you go next? So Petco is not something new, as being mentioned with the previous presenter or speaker. There's Petco in Kenya, but also there's Petco in South Africa and Petco in Ethiopia. So for Tanzania, we launched Petco July this year, although it was there before, but specifically to start operating, July, 2nd of July is where we launched Petco Tanzania. So for those who maybe something new to them, so Petco Tanzania is an industry managed producer responsibility organization that's basically is practicing voluntary extended producer responsibilities. And we have those 8 founding members. who are now seeing on how they can take part for what they are producing, and even be responsible for what they're producing, and making sure they contribute toward waste management. So we're expecting to have more as day goes on, because we're now new in industry, but we do learn from other colleagues, other countries, as mentioned. So can you go next? Next. Yeah, so we do have a vision by 2030 to have created a bottled water and soft drinks value chain, whereby we're expecting to have a zero plastic. Sorry, can you go back, please? Okay, share here. So.
We are in the vision, and I'm not sure if this the page you are looking for.
Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, sure. So we have a vision whereby we're expecting to have a zero plastic packaging goes to landfill or escape to the natural environment, but also bottled water and soft drinks packaging is made entirely from recycled or renewable materials, or both. But also we have a vision of packaging in easy design to make sure like past packaging are designed to be fully reusable or recyclable, and it's a cover cycle. So this is a both way. Not only producer be responsible for it, but even themselves they have to be responsible for what they're producing, not in supporting on waste management, but also for them to change their behavior, especially that vision of packaging to be designed in a formality or in a form of ways that can be easy to be reusable, but also can be easy to be recycled. But we cannot achieve all of that at the vision. We need a plan or strategies, and to achieve this requires working toward the following 4 outcomes that we are aiming or expecting. And one of them is an effective, efficient, and circular resource management system for bottled water and soft drink packaging, but also standardized lowest impact materials used for all bottled water and soft drink packaging. But also a significant shift of consumer behaviors and societal norms. So here we're talking about consumers, because after the producers who are producing different products taking to the market, so meaning the consumers are the one who also supposed to change the behavior or the norms, because you might find many people don't have a knowledge about recycling. They don't have knowledge that this package that I'm using or this product that I'm using can be used in another form, or can be even be the same as what I'm consuming right now. So that's one of the things that we're expecting to have a behavior change or supporting on behavior change, especially waters and soft drinks delivery models explode and implemented. So all of that is the vision as Petco Tanzania we're having, and we expect expectation of outcome that we really wish to see at the end of by 2030, as what now we're starting implementing some of the strategies, and also learning from other countries what are they doing and how are they doing, so can even add value to Petco Tanzania. So there's something that's to ask ourselves, like 70% of plastic waste end up on marine in marine ecosystems. So we all see the future is in circular packaging. So there is a short video. I hope maybe everyone can get to see and get to learn from other people. Developed countries, what are they doing, what are they expecting in terms of circular economy or circular packaging. So Anna, can you please click the link so we can watch that video. It's almost one minute video as a part of learning, and see how other people are expecting or are thinking of going to circular economy in terms of circular packaging.
taking a little bit
Anna,
of
can that
time.
can,
So,
can,
yes, I'm
can that
clicking
work
on
for
the.
you? Okay.
I clicked on the link. You just have, I think, a delay. Let's see.
Okay. It can't work. Maybe it's not showing on my side there.
No, yeah, it's not. It's
If
not
there's
showing
challenge,
yet.
maybe we can go. Okay, we can go next. We can go next.
Okay, I can share. I will share the link with people on the chat box, so then people can watch the video. Hello, can everyone still hear me? I think we may have lost Mr. Nicholaus for a moment. This is the link to the video. I just posted it on the chat. Let's just give it a moment for him to come back. So while we wait for Mr. Nicholaus to come back, I think we can answer one question that I see and has been posted on the chat box by Veronica Olela. Dr. Hussein, that question is for you. She says Section 7.3 of EMA Cap 191 provides for polluter pay principle, meaning any person causing adverse effects to the environment should pay in full social and environmental costs of avoiding, mitigating, or remedy those effects. This can be done if assessment has been done to determine the level of the effect. Effect caused by plastic pollution may not be necessarily seen immediately. Are there any environmental impact assessments that has been done on plastic pollution in Tanzania? If so, are there any measures taken so far for the enforcement of this law and other laws covering EPR?
Thank you, and I've just responded to her on a direct chat, but as I said earlier, we've been analyzing how much the current legislation have been implemented in the country. And what we can say that as far as polluter pay principle is concerned, not much has been really enforced. So what we are saying now is we are trying to develop these guidelines, including EPR, with subsequent regulations, where we can now be able to streamline enforcement and to be probably centered to a specific sort of organizations to make it more effective. So as now, what we can say, really, we're having problems as far as enforcement is concerned.
Okay, thank you. I see Mr. Nicholaus is back. So let me share my screen again. So
Yeah,
that
very
I can
sorry.
continue.
I had a technical problem.
Yeah, that always happens. It's fine. Here we go.
Okay, can I share from here, maybe? Can I share
Yeah, you
screen
can,
from
of
here?
course. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm stopping sharing and then you can share it from there.
Okay. Can anyone see?
Yes, but
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
You can try to share the video if you want. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think the video got some challenges, but so it's fine. Maybe I can proceed because of time. So what Petco Tanzania do, or what we do as Petco? So the first thing is we are here to support a collection of post-consumer pet products, but also we are here to support or to provide financial support to recyclers to maximize and collect the collection and recycling of pet bottles, but also increase pet bottles collection to safeguard the environment, but also promote and involve waste management and recycling of post-consumer PET products. So that's why these 8 founding members decided to come up with Petco or supporting Petco. So it can help or can even support on those 4 main areas. There is more, but most of them are the thing that would be within Petco, coming from those 4 areas. Why are we doing it? So we really want everyone to be responsible, everyone to understand on the impact of these post-consumer product that people are using, or producers are supplying or producing, and then take them to the market. But also for those who are consuming, you have to understand what are the impact if this package won't, or what are like a PET bottle not be recycled, what are the impact to the environment. So at the end of the day, we want to safeguard the environment and ensure everyone is involved to achieve this, from the raw materials producers, the converters, brand owners, retailers, consumers, and recyclers, but also playing everyone to play the part on finding solution toward waste management. And also, who are the partner already mentioned? We have our own expected result. At the end of the day, we expect to have a large number of plastic recyclers to be recruited, but also increasing number of PET plastic collection, environment with no PET plastic, with the hashtag plastics not trash. So plastics not trash is an hashtag that can even open a mind of people asking themselves why they're saying plastic is not trash, what is within it. So everyone to have a mindset like, okay, so maybe plastic can be something else, or plastic can even change my life, or plastic can even be something worse, and even contribute something to our economy, can be in the level of our community, but also country as a whole. At the end of the day, we're expecting to increase in number of job opportunities, because people have this tendency of thinking negative about those informal collectors, and most of people in the community, they really understand, or they're aware about informal collectors, but they don't know the whole processes until the end, where these bottles are taken, or PET bottles are taken. So we need to raise awareness to the community, to raise awareness to the consumers and everyone, to understand what are the processes, and even to formalize the recycling to be more formal, and not people taking for granted, or something that doesn't have values in the environment, or even the community as a whole. So if we'll be building an environment, people to understand the importance of recycling, can be even easy for them to take it serious as opportunity, and especially for the youth, because now we have a challenge of employment. So even this recycling, if it will be formalized, can even be a place for people to run and seek for opportunity, different job opportunities, and even creating more jobs to youth and women as well. But also, we're expecting to have a large number of recyclers co-innovation, and at the end of the day, we're expecting to conduct a public awareness and education about PET collection and recycling in Tanzania. So those are the
I think you need to share your screen again.
today is not a good day for me. Okay. Can everyone see? Maybe.
Well, yes, but not.
Let me share again. Let me try to share again. Okay, I think I have a challenge with the internet here. So can I turn off my video? Sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah, okay. So our objective is to strengthen recyclers' responsiveness and increase their recycling production, but also provide financial support, as already mentioned. On the public awareness and education about PT, we want to increase this understanding about recyclers, consumers, informal pickers, brand owners, and retail. And at the end of the day, promote and improve waste management and recycling of post-consumer PET product. But also through our implementation, we'll be training recyclers to identify main corporate environmental opportunities, social and corporate accountability, but also environmental issues and delivers environmental responsiveness. At the end of the day, what's our next step so far? So now as Petco, we are in early stage and we try to clarify into tires, these recyclers into tires. As first tire, we clarify recyclers, the big one who have all the incentives, and the technology that can support on recycling process. But also tire 2, we clarify as aggregators, and also we have tire 3, informal collectors. So in every tire, there's a strategies that we come up with to ensure we support the process and reaching out our objective, but also achieving our goals as Petco Tanzania. So we are in the early stage, as I've said, like we launched Petco Tanzania July, and now we are on the process of recruiting recyclers. So on the recruitment process is where we look on the capacity of recyclers. So per month, how many tons are they capable of producing or even recycling? And also we'll be looking, aggregators, the one that's supporting them, what are the things that's required, or what are the hinders that's are facing as the challenges for them to recycle or to collect these PET bottles from them. But also aggregators, some challenges that they're facing from informal collectors. Also, we try to address or to support on addressing some of the challenges that aggregators are facing in order to stimulate the collection of PET plastic, but also to support these aggregators to have more capacities to supply these PET bottles to recycle, either to be baled, but also to be flaked, but also to be recycled into new life. So this is a system that's as Petco Tanzania, supported by those 8 founding members, looking forward to take part on EPR or to support EPR in Tanzania. So very sorry because there's I got some challenges with the internet, but I hope that's a short summary on what Petco Tanzania expecting. So we did mapping of recyclers. That's the first thing that we did, but also we did some research and finding to understand the market, to understand what are the challenges in each category, each tire are facing in the market, but also we did some need assessment. What do they need? What kind of support are they expecting from Petco, but also with other government agencies? And what hinder them from getting these resources? And also we did data gathering and analysis, but now we are on the process of issuing or finalizing contract, because we need to get into contract with these recyclers to ensure us to stimulate their capacity and see on how we work with them, or how can we support them to do more, or to collect more on what they're having on hand, but also to stimulate the process to ensure these producers are responsible toward what they're producing. But also at the end of the day, strategy implementation, we do have different strategies that we'll be using as Petco Tanzania to implement or supporting these recyclers. So after recruiting them is where now we're going to introduce these strategies and or implement the strategy that we have on hand to make sure we support on waste management. We'll be having different public awareness events. We'll be having different ways of storing data or doing data management and record keeping to ensure people understand, or even the government have a good data on understanding how much these producers are producing and how much is being recycled at the end of the day. So that's the main things that also can even support the government, maybe through NEMKI, to understand or to have a permanent or systematic information or data, getting to know per year. We have 1,000 of producers. We have 1,000 of people who are producing various plastic and things like that. So in a year, how many are they producing? How many tons are produced? How many supply, how many numbers of supply are in the market? But at the end of the day, what about recycling? How are they responsible on recycling what they've been produced or what they've been taken into in the market? So that is I think as day goes on, we can even have a chance to help other people learn from us, but also learning from other people on who are environmental agencies on this EPR scheme.
Thank you.
So yes, if there be some question, maybe I can see on the chat box and respond accordingly. But that's it shortly about Petco Tanzania. I hope there'll be a lot of questions. So I'm expecting a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will request that you please stop sharing your screen now. And thank you. There are questions already in the chat box, and we are going to answer all of them at the end. Thank you for your presentation. And with that, I would like to move us to our final speaker today, Engineer Alan Kimambo. He's a chemical and processing engineer by profession, holding a bachelor's degree in chemical and process engineering from the University of Dar es Salaam. He also has a postgraduate diploma in sustainability studies from Swedish Institute Management Program. He's currently the founder and chief executive of CEJAD Recyclers. This is a recycling company that is leading waste management solutions that offer complete industrial waste management services, from collection to recycling. They also help businesses adopt sustainable, environmentally responsible recycling practices and focus on disposing of all waste sustainably and minimizing environmental impact. He's also a founding member of the Tanzania Startup Association, which promotes startup growth, and the current chairperson of the Tanzania Recyclers Association, TARA. So welcome, Engineer Alan Kimambo, and to give us your remarks about the presentation and about as well the recycling sector in Tanzania.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna, Nipe Fagio, for organizing this event. Actually, this is the first kind of event that happened in Tanzania, more focusing on EPR. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all presenters as well, and all the participants of this event. I may need to stress maybe on 3 important areas. Of course, I'll just add some few comments from my end. So far, there is no a reliable take-back system, as Dr. Hussein said. And what we have from the recyclers' perspective, it's only some patches of establishment of this kind of system, where you see more products, mobile enterprise products where they have like a depot somewhere. People can bring the materials, mostly the glass, the plastic bottles. And you see Azam, some of their people going around and collect the packages from the ice creams. So that is only something which is existing, but not that much formalized and not at large scale. So you can only say that there is no reliable take-back system. And even for the plastic bottles, the way it is right now, the PET, it is more driven by the market because there is high demand. The price is very high right now. I think 1 ton of PET bottle, if you sell to the people who are doing crushing, the Chinese and the local, some of the locals, I think it's almost 300 USD per metric ton. So itself, it promotes more people to go in the industry, into that sector and collect more plastic. So itself, it has its driving mechanism just because of the market. But again, in Tanzania and most part of Africa, we had our own kind of a community voluntary EPR system. And you would recall way back when we, drink soda, we drink beer, we return the bottles to the mango shop, and this bottle goes back straight to the manufacturers so that they can add, those drinks, and then we get them back to the market. And of course, like now, this same kind of system exists, although it has been again hijacked by plastic bottles, not only about plastic bottles, but also the non-returnable glass bottles. So you find many non-returnable glass bottles are covering most of our landfill, and which is again a very big problem. But again, we are used to this kind of system where we return the materials to the either retail shop or a normal shop or to the wholesale. So it's something that it is there in our mind, it is there in our tradition. But again, it's the now issue with the producers who are now changing the packaging time to time, so that it now makes it difficult for us to be able to return to the selling point, and where we can even get money, going forward. So this is to say that we really need EPR because most of the materials right now, the packages, if you compare, they are of low value, and market cannot even, some of them never fetch market or reliable buyer. And you can agree with me, issues related like solar panels, alkaline batteries, ink and toner cartridges, styrofoams, like bread, bread packages, and many other. Even some of the paper, waste papers, you find that you cannot get, the market for that because they are low value, and being also at low value, but they are also mixed because of the way we handle them. The lack of the infrastructure to do proper sorting and segregations. So you find that most of the materials just end up the landfill, open, visible, open burning, as well as illegal dump sites. So with the EPR, which brings me to the third point, with the EPR, where we see number of opportunities, I think the most important thing in the EPR is about the product design, the packaging design. This is very key. And the design has to now focus towards end of single use. Like going to glass bottles. If it's from PET, we go to glass bottles, but the glass bottles, which again, they are returnable. If we are also like design so that we can achieve even better packaging that can be easily recovered but again, can also be, recycled. That means fetch very good marketing. So without focusing on the design, we might focus on other issues, but we forget about the design of the product, so that we can have a very good, value and recovery rate. We might even face some big challenges. And at this point, of course, I may recall what Coca-Cola did from turning from abandon the green bottles, the Sprite green bottle, going to clear white. That is a stage, And again, the other approach we did recently, where we removed a seal from the water bottle, so that we don't need the security seal right now, because the seal is not easily recyclable. That's another approach. So we might need to really focus on the product design, and this has to be, of course, and it is the core, it's at the center of the EPR, whereby designing of the product is very much important. Of course, there are a number of other benefits, like EPR, if we implement it very well, it will reduce the burden we have now with our municipalities, where we rely more on the landfill. And I've seen our fellows Kenyans, they are talking about zero landfill, that they're not, I think their vision is more landfill, that all waste can be segregated at the household, and there will be like the material recovery facility, where these materials can just go and be, recovered and get high value from those materials. And maybe this is also, we need to see if it works, the entire East Africa, where we can adopt from Kenya. But again, with the EPR, you're also sure to get materials of high quality, because more material will be recovered at the source. They will not be allowed to go at the landfill, because the value, of course, has also increased. The producers has also, put some, incentive around that. So you get materials of higher quality. And this is a big problem, of course. Most of the materials we are getting from different areas, they are of less quality. With the EPR, the companies, if they're involved with EPR, obviously they are raising their ESG, their environmental and social governance indicator. So we have not seen much that happens in Tanzania, like many other countries like Kenya and Nigeria. But again, I think it's the matter of more awareness to the companies, so that at least they can be able to come together and put together the voluntary approach, so that we can be able to support the industry. But again, with the EPR, we might also increase distance, in the informal waste pickers and also waste workers, because most of the way they appear, the way they are working, the environment, work environment, their safety and health is very much jeopardized. So I think with the EPR, there is a very big opportunity where that these people, they're not pushed to the dump sites, and if they're more working the street, but at least they're also taken as a key part of the achieving the circular economy agenda. So then lastly, I think the way forward for us is to push for transparency, because this is another angle where we might get more of a greenwashing agenda. And if we cannot embrace transparency among the different organizations, different companies who are engaged in EPR, then we might end up, getting data which are not, realistic, impact which are not realistic, and we might not even achieve, the agenda for, zero waste or the circular economy by not providing, by not giving the transparency to what we normally, what we are doing. So to me, I really urge you, VPO, Dr. Hussein, please, you have done a very great job. I think we really need to finalize the issue of the EPR guidelines and convene a meeting with different stakeholders. I've seen in the EPR guidelines, there is people in the glass I think the paper, there is e-waste, plastic as well. So we convened a meeting with these key stakeholders so that they can now offer or share the ideas of what they want to do so as to achieve the EPR agenda, which is already on our table. So thanks so much. Welcome for more questions. That's my little contribution. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alan. Very good points. And yes, I think one of the things that we need to remember is that EPR regulations cannot replace upstream measures because they focus only on waste that is already generated. And so it's important for us to remember that the first R is reduce, and reduce needs to come from redesign, as you mentioned. And as actually, we need to remember that not all plastic is the same for the case of plastic, and there are also other kinds of waste, but that historically, less than 9% of all the plastic that has been produced in the world has been recycled, and that includes all the countries in the global north that have been doing segregation of sorts for a long time. And so we cannot rely only on recycling to solve this situation. We need to ally that with upstream measures, as you mentioned, like the redesign of products, and to make sure that we don't actually put in the market products that are too difficult to manage at the end of their life. So thank you so much for that. Before we go into questions, I would like to just mention that this webinar is being hosted by it's a coalition of organizations, being this organization CEJAD from Kenya, it's the Center for Environmental Justice and Development, BioVision, BIVA, in Uganda, and then the Global Initiative for Environment and Reconciliation, called CEJAD, in Rwanda, together with Nipe Fagio here in Tanzania, and TARA, which is the Tanzania Recyclers Association. We are all hosting this webinar as part of the initiative of, we have been doing a campaign, and we also have a petition going on to end single-use plastic in the East African region, and do something that was mentioned by Mr. Nicholaus, which is trying to harmonize the legislation in all these African countries to make it easier for oversight and for implementation. And so we are trying to harmonize environmental legislation targeting plastic pollution. And the goal is having a single-use plastic-free East African community. You see that the link for the petition is in the chat box. So please, if you can, both sign the petition and also share with other people, that will be much appreciated. And so now going to questions, and we have a couple. So there is a question for Cameron Smith to Mr. Nicholaus. The target for zero packaging in landfill environment by 2030 is impressive. It means an 8-year time horizon. How long has Petco been operating in other countries, and has this target been achieved in any of them? And how many years did it take in case it has? And I think we can link this question with a question from Patrick Matandala, also to Mr. Nicholaus. In terms of PET recovery, does Petco have specific targets based on the amount of plastic each member produces yearly? What is Petco's current PET count? So, Mr. Nicholaus, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the good question. So I can respond as per what we've been asked about zero packaging waste to landfill and environment by 2030. So this is the vision we have. It's kind of, I should think about 80 years time horizon, kind of challenging, like thing, are we going to achieve it? But this is the vision that we're having, and referring to other best experience from other countries, as it's being asked. South Africa, they almost have 18 years now, because they started Petco South Africa in 2004 till now. They are in presence. But also Kenya, it started to 2018 till now, and Ethiopia 2019 till now. So we have a best experience from other countries. That's why we thought with that vision can be easy for us to achieving zero packaging waste to landfill or environment by 2030. Although even themselves are still struggling, but we've seen South Africa, they're doing a great job now, and they've gone very far. So from that experience, we do hope this vision can even be achieved in some percentage. Might not be all 100%, but we believe in some percentage we will achieve that as a vision that we are having. And also, Kenya, they're also doing a great job so far. Tanzania, we are starting now Petco Tanzania. So we're very new in the industry, or we're very new in Tanzania, or even in implementation, but we do hope the support from other countries or learning from other countries can take us far as what we aim. But another thing that's been asked about technology. So far, I cannot say we have like a fully Nicholaus value chain technology to support that, but we do have a technology that can support the system or the circular value chain. But as Petco, what we're thinking that in future can be easy to support the chain is coming up with technological innovation fund that will be used as renewable energy instead of using this technology that we're having right now that's caused degradation in environment or even cause environmental pollution and things like that. So that's an idea we do have in the future to support the recyclers on this technological innovation fund that will help them to adapt to new technologies or to new machines that will even be environmental friendly. And what behavior or cultural norms changes does Petco envision? So we all know, maybe for those who don't know about Tanzania, most of people, because they don't see the values of PET bottle, and they're not aware about it. So can find they're just throwing it away anywhere without even considering. So can find the person is in the bus drinking water or drinking soda. After finishing, not thinking like, where can I take this? Where can I deposit this bottle? You can find they threw it outside through the window. So that's the kind of norms and behavior people are having, and not having a structured way of adapting or thinking like this bottle or this package can even be renewable, but also can even come up with something new that I can use not in form of drinking water or drinking maybe soda, but can be something else, even decoration or things like that. So I think that's the kind of norms or kind of behavior we will focus on public awareness or raising awareness about on behavior change. And how can we do it about strategies? So far, we are thinking much on raising awareness through training. We'll be having various events that we'll be inviting different experts who will even help us to change some of the behavior or to even raise awareness to the communities as whole. We'll be having TV shows or TV session, radio, using different media to raise awareness about recycling and the importance of it. But also we're thinking on having having environmental clubs or initiating some clubs that can focus on helping on behavior change or raising awareness on recycling to stimulate on behavior change. And also be having various campaign, and even in future having providing or giving out award that should be based on recycling, but also environment as general to stimulate the system or stimulate the behavior of people understanding or getting to know how important it is, how people are doing a great work or a great job on recycling or in preserving the environment, or even conserving the environment, or even waste management as well. So those are the kind of strategies that can be used to support as what has been asked. There's so much more that we're expecting to come up with, but those are few by mentioning. And if we go for question number 3, according to mapping, do enough recyclers already exist in Tanzania as per production of PET packaging or bottles produced? Recyclers are there, but can find most of them are not consistent, are not having consistent, and even facing some of challenges. So others can be financial challenges, but sometimes can find they're saying if there is weather change or climatic change, there's no enough opportunities for them to get production, seed production affected by the weather or climate change. So also we're thinking maybe to use or to the recycler to be recruited within Petco can even help us to come up with other more recyclers who will help to add number of recycling in the country. And also maybe I can go back to behavior change. We're also thinking to come up with an idea or strategies of having this PET bottle recycling or even drop off. So can be through those recyclers to be recruited. Okay, there can even be some bin that to be placed in some areas or essential or potential areas that people can even adapt. That if I'm drinking water, this is the place to take. But that should come after a huge or massive public awareness that will be raised in the communities. So that's it is. So another question says, can you plan to have a center for collection in regions like Korogwe town in Tanga, since it's the center, and connect with Arusha and Kilimanjaro? So this is a great advice, but also it's a great idea. Petco Tanzania is for the whole country. We are here for the whole country. But for now, we are specifying starting to channel in other regions. So this we take this, and thank you very much, Abdallah, for good pop-up comment and advice. So we hope in the future, when we grow up and becoming some in some levels, we can even come up with this idea or even involve you in supporting us on that idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholaus, for your answers. There is also a question here for, just 1 second. We have a question here for Mr. Gerphas Opondo, and that question is about if you have to suggest for East African countries to come together to advocate for EPR, what do you suggest we can do in common? And that's a question that I'm also very interested in, considering that we have a campaign to harmonize the legislation. So, please.
Thank you very much for that great question. So, for me, I think the beginning point would be to try and harmonize the waste management laws generally, and then focus now. If we are going to do something around EPR for plastics, as I said earlier in my presentation, I don't think it is efficient to just focus on plastics alone, because there are lots of other products and waste streams that would essentially be subject to EPR. And for that reason, I would suggest that as we harmonize our legislative frameworks, let's also harmonize in terms of the different types of waste streams that are subject to EPR. Again, regional approaches in terms of, for example, where does this waste end up once it is collected? For some countries, if we talk about plastics, for example, the volumes may not be, so big as to attract investment in recycling. So we need to find out, for example, among the East African countries, where do we already have existing capacity for greater recycling capability? And once we do that, then we could say, for example, if Tanzania is big on the recycling side, can we, as a region, channel all our plastics into Tanzania for recycling, or for the other streams like electronic and electrical waste, which country, for example, is already doing something around that and more advanced? So we could basically, have a common legislative framework, but also in terms of implementation, try to leverage on existing infrastructure in the different countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very good to hear. And yes, we do need to, I think I agree, it starts with the harmonization of the regulations. So let's hope that we can get that achieved. And with that, I think we have covered all questions that we had. If anyone has a last question or a last comment, if any of our panelists as well have any final thoughts, please let me know. Oh, Patrick, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Yana. I would just like to share a quick, like a quick input based on my experience here in Ireland. So here in Ireland, the government has established a non-profit scheme called the REPAC. So REPAC actually it encourage the businesses to reach the recycling target, both at national and the EU targets. So what REPAC is doing is it collects fees from businesses, and the fee is based on the amount and the type of waste the business put on the market. So, and this is open for all waste typologies, so not only PET. And then the scheme, it pays to recyclers based on what they recover. So for each single plastic recovered, it is subsidized from the member of REPAC. And the scheme goes to the household level because waste is segregated at household level. So to encourage waste separation, the recycling bin is taken for free. So you can see the incentive flow. So as we think of this EPR, probably doctor will help. They should think from the systemic perspective. Probably they should set a separate scheme, which will try to push the business to commit, set target, and also the scheme try to make sure that other actors in the system, like recyclers, benefit, but also the household. Thanks, Ian.
Thank you, Patrick. That's a very good point. And I think we may need, oh, Mr. Gerphas, please go ahead.
So just two quick ones. I see one question in the chat box that I didn't address related to enforcement of the littering prohibitions. And for Kenya, waste management, especially when it comes to enforcement, is undertaken by what we call the county governments, which are equivalent to local governments in other jurisdictions. So many of these local government levels have inspectorate departments that usually would enforce. So this is enforced, for example, you would be fined or arrested, and prosecuted through the courts if you are found doing this. But again, as I said, the enforcement capacity is limited, and hence, it's not uncommon to see waste littered on the streets, especially in the urban areas. My last point with regard to EPR, I would want to just, say that EPR by itself is not a one-stop solution to the plastic waste or general waste management problems in our countries. Even as we pursue EPR as a policy option, we need to approach waste management from an integrated perspective. And in this respect, coming from, considering issues around, waste reduction, waste collection services and segregation at source, and, disposal using, different means and all that. So EPR only covers streams that are essentially recyclable. And if you look at the waste composition across East Africa, the recyclables would usually be no more than 40–50% of the overall waste generated. So what that means is that even as we approach EPR, we should not approach it as the solution to the overall waste management problem. We still need to tackle the other streams that are not recyclable. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good point, and I think it touched on the fact that not all kinds of waste are the same, and that's something that needs to be we need to remember and to be reminded all the time, exactly because that, like recycling cannot solve this by itself. Alan, would you like to say something? I see you blinking.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So actually, I want to respond on what has been said before. So far, this is my opinion. I see EPR as one of the best tools to achieve zero waste and the circular economy drive. Because this time, this is a tool that tasks the producers. Because the normal system that we are using right now is for the users, consumers to pay, like the taka fee, the garbage fee. Maybe you get donation from countries, maybe to build the sanitary landfill, to buy these garbage trucks, or we can get some also fee from like get fee when we go to dump our material to the dump sites, and then we get this collection fee. But the other kind of financial support in this waste management recovery or system is coming from selling the materials, like selling the recyclable materials, plastic, metal, and the rest. So, and this kind of financial schemes, almost they are failed so far. What we know and the problem we have is because this financial mechanism, they are failed. So because we are putting more effort on the consumers and other systems, which they are not really directly proportional to what the producer is producing or is releasing to the environment. And again, these producers, they're making, they're announcing that they're getting profit, and if we are not giving them the challenge to put part of their portion of their profit to recover the materials, whether they're recyclable or not, because EPR is not only for the recyclable material. EPR is a take-back system whereby you return or you find a way to manage the packages that you have released to the environment. So whether it is alkaline solar panels, ABS materials, ink and toner cartridges, whether it's plastic, whether it's whatever kind of materials, and this is the essence of the EPR. Because once you maybe rely on PET. PET, as I said earlier, it has its own way to go to the recycling market because of the high demand. So what EPR is coming to accelerate that area so that we can get more recovery. So I think we really need to, because we have only this tool right now, apart from the other tools that we have. So we really need to push this to make people aware so that they can either come voluntarily, or we put regulations so that we put into task this organization to come together to redesign what we are, our packagings, to put funds to recover more, to support the recyclers, to do whatever in terms of awareness, so that we can at least, achieve the agenda which we have set. So again, I see EPR as the key tool right now going forward. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Alan. And with that, I think we can close the webinar. We are right on time. There are many people asking about sharing the presentations and also sharing the contacts of this. Please send an email to info@nipefagio.co.cz. I'm in this to the chat as well, the email address, and we can share the presentation and the contacts with you, if all these people are going to allow us to. The recording will be available on the Nipe Fagio YouTube channel starting tomorrow, so you can also get it from there. And we will also have, we can also start this, continue this discussion. I would like to remind everyone that we have a petition going on. I am repasting the link of the petition on the chat box. Please sign the petition and help us. So then I would like to thank Dr. Hussein Omari from the Vice President's Office in Tanzania, Mr. Gerphas Opondo, who is the founder and executive director of the Environmental Compliance Institute, EAC, in Nairobi, Mr. Nicholaus Ambwene from Petco Tanzania, and then also Engineer Alan Kimambo, who is the executive director of the Recyclers, the chair of TARA, Tanzania Recyclers Association, and also founding member of the Tanzania Startup Association. So then I'd like to end this again on behalf of CEJAD, the Center for Environment Justice and Development in Kenya, BioVision, Africa, BIVA, in Uganda, and also there, the Global Initiative for Environment and Reconciliation in Rwanda, together with Nipe, Fagio, and TARA from Tanzania. I would like to thank everyone for being here, for joining this webinar. Please follow us on our social media. We have a lot always going on, and there will be more webinars as well. And it was a pleasure to have you all. Thank you, and wishing everyone a good evening.